So recently I have been working on something that I thought I overcame, but then my mind suddenly started to have weird thoughts about this thing. So I had to work through my shadows because they just appeared. They just came up out of nowhere. I noticed how they came up. They came up in a subtle way where I didn't even realize that thought after thought, my brain was going to the wrong direction. And I started spiraling because I didn't know how to stop myself. Let me clarify what I mean by this whole experience of shadow work. I come from a past where I've been learning about the law of attraction since probably 2018, around that time. So I've been experimenting with the law. And let me tell you, when I first found out the law, I read a lot of books, a lot of authors, different authors. There was a repeating concept that they were talking about, which is learning through suffering. When life throws you struggles and battles, it's because you're meant to overcome them. And I had this concept lingering in my brain. And this concept was useful whenever I went through something that was not pleasant, because it was giving me like a bigger perspective on it when I didn't know anything about reality creation, let's say. And so it was kind of helpful at the time because it was giving me a perspective. But this concept is often repeated by different authors, different writers, different gurus, and everything. So it's like a concept that stayed in my brain, but it was silent because I was not giving it importance, and because in my last few years, I really wanted to learn more about reality creation. So I kind of put that aside and didn't really focus on struggles in life, because I could see with my own eyes that I completely left the struggles and pain and suffering back a long time ago. And after that, I started building my life again, giving a direction to my life. So I started spiraling again because there was a part of my brain that noticed the fact that I have been living a life that is pretty quiet, pretty normal, pretty just like regular life, no big deals. So my brain was afraid that I was not upgrading in life. So my brain was expecting things to go worse, to go down. I'm like, what? Can I enjoy life? What is it about? Why is this fear coming up? So I had to understand my own fears. I had to understand why they were coming up, and I realized that they were coming up because I had this thing lingering in my brain that was telling me, oh, remember that gurus tell you that you have to go through struggles to upgrade and learn. So, so I was going through that, and I didn't know how to stop my spiral thoughts because I'm like, what if this is my intuition? What if it's my intuition telling me that something is gonna go very wrong? Something is gonna go terribly horrible? What if, I had all of these fears coming up and I didn't know if it was my intuition. I didn't know if what was it. But I realized that thought after thought, I gave this more importance, more attention. And so it grew to a point where I was feeling so scared. I had this intense fear coming up because I didn't know what to expect, And then I just had to, as the fear was so intense, I knew that I didn't want to create anything from that. I knew that I had to solve that issue and really understand what was going on behind that fear. So I started to ask myself questions like, where does this fear come from? This fear comes from what Guru says, that I have to go through life battles to learn and upgrade in life. And then from my own experiences, where I was so used to a certain type of experience in my life that it felt so, I noticed the lack of it. I was expecting my life to be created based on my old experiences, based on my old thoughts and expectations, So it's like I jumped to a different timeline where I was the old version of me. And at that time, and at that point, I knew that I had to work through my fears, work through the reason why they were coming up. So I started to ask myself questions. And the moment that I realized that they were coming up because of my past and because of what people used to tell me, I had a clearer vision where I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I'm a completely different person now. I'm working on myself. I am more self-conscious, self-aware. Back in the days, I didn't know what I was doing. So of course, I attracted certain experiences because I was not listening to myself. I was going the opposite direction of what I was feeling was right for me. I was going the opposite direction. So of course, life threw struggles at me. But it's not that life threw struggles at me. I created them for myself. Because I wasn't seeing this. I was not aware. I was not aware of the fact that I was not coherent. I was going against myself. And so I had to realize that I grew out of who I was. So there's technically not even a point in making me go through the same experiences if I have learned from that. So there's no reason why I should be scared of it. And there's no reason why I should be scared of it because I am the creator of it all. In the past, I used to create certain experiences unconsciously because I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I didn't know who I was. And everything happened just so that I could learn who I was. And now that I know who I am, there's no point. When there is not a point, the same experiences will not happen because they have no reason to exist. And second point, when gurus tell you that you have to go through certain life experiences so that you can upgrade and awaken, well, I have learned that is an assumption that I had. I had this expectation. I had this expectation because book after book, I was reading this type of concept. And as I reminded myself that I am in charge and that I am the creator, and I created this experience. I created this experience where I could see that maybe I had this belief where I believe that I have to go through certain life experience to upgrade. But once I realized that, I just told myself that is not necessary. That is not necessary for me to experience. I can learn through joy, I can learn through love, I can learn through beautiful experiences. So one by one, I dismantled my own beliefs, those that came up out of these fears. So this is just to say that whenever you have certain fears, just question them. Ask yourself, why are you scared? And when you have an answer, I'm scared because of this. Ask yourself, keep asking yourself, why? Why? Until you get to the core of your fear. When you get to the core of your fear, you can just tell yourself that you are ready to experience the opposite. So for example, if you have a certain expectation or if you have a certain fear, tell yourself that as you are aware of your fear, you're not pushing it away, you understood it. What you can do now is just releasing it. Release it and create the opposite of your fear. Start affirming from the opposite of your fear. Once we learn that everything is a mirror, there are no surprises. There cannot be surprises because you are the source of it all. So it's all about really understanding, as I mentioned before, how your mind works and how it created your whole life. This has been something that recently I think of. Like, even like small events in my life, if I think of an event, I remember myself thinking about that event before it happened, identifying myself with that event. And then, of course, it happens.